Welcome to Resume Writing Beyond the Basics, presented by the Center for Career and Professional Development at Clarion University. My name is Erin Lewis. I am the Assistant Director of the CCPD, and I am your hostess for this afternoon's presentation. So why are we here? You've already had a basic resume presentation. You already have a draft of your resume. Well, we're going to review some of those basic resume principles. We're also going to talk a little bit more in detail about the electronic resume versus the traditional resume and how key roles may play a role in that, and the use of applicant tracking systems, and this whole new green recruiting trend or digital recruiting trends. You may have heard that, so we're going to unravel a little bit of that mystery. So the whole point of having a strong resume is so that you can stay in the applicant pool. You want to stand out for all of the right reasons. You want to showcase the employer that you know what to do, how to do it, you have some experience, you have some skill sets, and you have some achievements. And so how we go about doing that is going to depend on how long you stay in that candidate pool. So let's talk about what this document should look like very briefly, because you have probably already had the basics. So let's just review very briefly that you want to use standard 8.5 by 11 paper. You want resume paper, not copy paper. The difference between the two is that the resume paper tends to be a little bit sturdier, a little bit more finished and refined, whereas copy paper is exactly what you get when you print something out in the library. You want to use resume paper if you are sharing this document with an employer or a internship person perhaps, or a mentor. You want to give them a nice copy of your resume. You may use copy paper if you're coming in to meet with me in person to look at your resume. I'm perfectly fine just seeing that document on copy paper. You don't need to use resume paper for that. The same with if you are giving your advisor or maybe one of your references a copy of your resume. Copy paper is typically okay for a situation like that as well. I often get a lot of questions about how long should my resume be, and the short answer to that is long enough to cover everything, but short enough to keep it interesting. You don't want to give them your life story, but you also don't want to let out really important details. So we would work with you to customize the length of your resume and to make sure that you're really highlighting your strengths, your achievements, your skills and experiences. Additionally, we can do a lot with margins and fonts and spacing, and we can get really creative if we need to, and that's a great reason to use your Career Center's resume review service. The same with fonts. One of the things that a lot of people don't think about with fonts is that you may be using an up-to-date version of Microsoft Word, but if you're emailing the document to somebody who doesn't have that version of Word, that font that you've selected may show up as really crazy or wonky, or even worse, it may show up as squares and triangles and rectangles because they don't have the font. So serif and sans serif fonts are safe bets. Times New Roman, CG, Times, Garamond, Calibri, Arial, those are all safe professional fonts that are typically found on even the oldest versions of Microsoft Word. Depending on the company or organization, they may not have up-to-date technology. We're going to talk about how to avoid that a little bit later, but just something to keep in mind. The same with lists and the content on the document. I don't think any of us get excited when we are told that we need to read a substantial amount of paperwork or chapters by the next class period, right? No one gets excited over long reading assignments. So the same holds true when it comes to the resume. Employers are really busy. They don't have any extra hours in their day either, so we want to make their job easy. And bulleted lists have consistently shown to do that. Employer after employer after employer says no large chunks of text. We want a simple bullet point list that highlights what you've done, what achievements you've had, and that's a great place to insert keywords, and we're going to get to that as well. And you also want to think about, how are they going to find this information? Where are they going to be looking? Well, they're going to scroll through the document pretty quickly and see the important parts that they're looking for. It's going to vary from employer to employer, but there's some pretty common sections that we're going to review today. And the same with mistakes. Mistakes say a lot about your character. If you have a substantial number of mistakes, or you have careless mistakes like typing or spelling errors, that shows that you don't have attention to detail. I'm not going to tell you it's going to be the reason you don't get through or you don't get hired, but it may make them judge you or may make them look at you different, or you may have to really knock it out of the park when you interview. So having a document that's mistake free, that's error proof, or as awesome as it can possibly be is critical to staying in the job search. Now, there are employers who say one typo, one spelling mistake, one mistake period, and you're gone from the applicant pool. So let's be on the safe side, and we don't want any mistakes on the document. So when it comes to an electronic resume, you may be scanning that document into a system. You may have to actually come into our office and use a fax machine and scan it that way. You might actually have to scan it and put it into a PDF, or it could be uploaded into a system and then their software technology scans the document. Scanning could mean a couple different things. There's a couple different ways that we can scan a document now. And you might also be emailing the document. If you apply through Career Connections, you can upload a document into that database system and have it emailed directly to the employer through that system. There are many more employer companies that are going with the whole apply online. If you've been to a career fair, you have probably heard numerous times, well, to be considered a candidate, you have to apply online. And yes, it's frustrating. I totally understand how frustrating it is, but it's the process and it's the system. And if you skip that step, you're not in their system. So when they tell you to apply online, you go into their whatever database or web-based system that they use, you fill out their application, and you include typically a resume or maybe even a cover letter, maybe some transcripts, depending on what they're looking for. The best thing to do is to include a PDF version of your resume. That way you know that it's going to be viewed by their eyes the same way it's being viewed by your eyes. And that's really crucial in this system. You don't want to leave any room for maybe a word that gets moved over or a letter that shifts, or you've seen it when you email documents, I'm sure, that things can go really crazy. So a PDF will eliminate that step. But uploading it into a database and web-based system is really important if you're following their process and their steps. And just a couple tips to keep in mind when it comes to the electronic resume is that sometimes the electronic resume isn't going to be as pretty as the printed resume. The electronic resume is designed to be functional. Some things don't scan well, or they don't view well in applicant tracking systems, and that would include italicized font. So if you're using italics, you want to take them out if it's an electronic resume. If you are using underlining, you want to avoid that in an electronic resume. It may look beautiful printed and polished if you're handing it out at a networking event, but for purposes of electronic resumes, you want to go with very basic, very functional, but yet still professional documents. And we can certainly help you with that when you get to that process. Just ask us and we can go over that with you. And it's a quick conversation that we could even have with you in between your classes. So what are keywords? I've said that about 3 times now at this point in the presentation. The purpose of keywords is to help an employer to identify whether or not you meet the criteria of the job posting, of the position that they're filling, of the company, and you can locate those keywords in the job posting. I know, big mystery, right? You can also search on the employer's website. Perhaps they use a lot of industry-specific jargon, and maybe you're seeing the same terms over and over and over again. That could be an indicator that that's something that they value, or it is something that's meaningful to them. Additionally, you can use a site called ONET Online, and if you meet with me in person and we look at your resume, we're going to be looking at ONET Online anyway. It's a very awesome tool. You can put in managerial accounting, and it can bring up what a person in that position does, and you'll see some industry-specific keyword for that field. So it's really a useful tool. If you have not visited that website yet, I would encourage you to do that. You'll be able to find it in the Desire to Learn page and under the additional resources. It's awesome. So how do you use keywords? How do you just inject them into the resume? Well, you don't want to just put a list of words at the top of your document. That would look really silly, and an employer would look at it and say, what is this? But you do want to put put them in the appropriate places on the document. So that could include if you maybe have a classroom project you want to highlight and you have 2 bullet points under that classroom project. Those bullet points, the sentences that you write there, are great places to insert keywords. Same with internship descriptions, part-time jobs, campus involvement, leadership activities. You can really put them anywhere that it makes sense to use them. Don't just tell me that you were doing something that would include a keyword under a random place. It wouldn't make sense. It would look silly. And if a real human looked at it, you would look silly. And we don't want that. So if you're struggling with where to put these keywords, like you've identified, okay, I know these 10 words absolutely need to be in this document. I figured out where to put like 3 of them, but I don't know what to do with the other 7. That's what I'm for. I'm here to help you with that. That's really going on the advanced level, and I love to do that. It's so much fun for me. I love to sit down and talk with you about that job search and about how to customize and tailor the document. It really is fun. I know it may not sound fun to you because you're watching this in the presentation, but it really is a lot of fun to sit and talk about what you've done and how we can tailor your document for every single job that you want to apply. So speaking of applying to jobs, you have heard it. Apply online, apply online, apply online. And I want to let you in on a little secret. You're only going to continue to hear it more and more as more and more companies go to applicant tracking systems. The whole apply online concept is designed to simplify the life of the HR recruiters, of the talent acquisition managers, and it's just a software program where they can go in and plunk in keywords, and the system's going to say, based on your search, these 200 applicants met the criteria, and maybe they refine it a little bit more and get it down to 50 candidates, or whatever their process is depending on the size of the company. And it is really designed to manage recruitment, to manage talent acquisition. So if you go to a networking event or a job fair and they say, oh, John, it was great to talk with you today. You have a lot of great credentials. You have everything that we're looking for with our company. I need you to apply online so we can make you a candidate. And you never do that, then you miss out on that opportunity. I was actually talking with an employer at the Westpacs, the Western Pennsylvania Collegiate Job and Internship Fair, that recruits for a very large organization, and he said 80% of the candidates that he speaks with at a career fair, at a job fair, 80% of the candidates that he wants to follow up with, he cannot follow up with because they don't apply online and they don't become an applicant. So that is a huge number. 80% is a lot. So if you're in the job search and you're wondering why you're not getting called back, or you go to a career fair and you don't hear back from anyone that you talked with, but you handed out 50 resumes, if you didn't apply online, sometimes those employers can never follow up with you. So it's really a critical part of the application process that a lot of people just don't understand or they're not aware of. So fear not. Now hopefully you understand how the applicant tracking system works, why it works, and you're not going to be one of those 80%. So we're gonna make our Clarion students increase those numbers at career fairs to really have some success. So I want to go over some basic resume principles and insert some more advanced conversations about keywords and how applicant tracking systems can help you in the job search. When it comes to the header of your resume, this is simply your contact information. We're hearing more and more from employers that they really don't send you anything through the mail. They don't need to send you anything through the mail. They can email you, they can call you on your phone, and they can find you on LinkedIn. So if you're looking at places to maybe trim the fat on your resume, the header is a really great place to do that. You really only need this basic information. If you're looking at this going, LinkedIn, what is that? I don't know. We're going to get to that in a further conversation, so don't worry about that right now. You will have that by the time you complete this series, and you will be a pro. When it comes to education, there's some key information here that they absolutely want to see. They want to know, where did you go to school? What degree do you have? When did you obtain this degree? And what was your major? Those are the major things that they want. Bonus information is QPA. However, if you read the job posting and they say applicants must have a 3.0 or higher to apply, and you have a 3.0 or higher, you absolutely need to include that QPA on the resume. If you don't include it, they're going to say, oh, they must not have a 3.0, or they would have included it on the resume, and out you go. It could also be a search factor in the keywords. They could put 3.0 in there, or they could put a GPA range. I don't know how all scanners work. I'm not a tech person, but it is definitely something that they can search in the application. If you're graduating with honors, maybe you're not there yet, but that's a goal. It's definitely something good to have as a goal. And a little statement about how you financed your education through scholarships and work. If you're someone who is going to come out of college with very little student loan debt, then that's important to let an employer know, because it tells them you know how to work hard, you know how to set a goal, you have financial responsibility and fiscal responsibility, and it takes a lot of dedication and commitment to do well academically, to work a part-time job, and of course you're going to be involved in organizations and have leadership as well. When it comes to your professional development, the employers are looking at this section to say, oh, I take my major seriously. This is my career. This is my path that I want to take. And so I got involved in professional organizations so I could really be invested. And this is anything from conferences, seminars, workshops, leadership academies, this series. They're all things that you can include to indicate that you take professional development very serious. And it would just be the name of whatever you did and when did you do that. So let's look at an internship example. You might not have an internship yet to put on your document, but I want you to be thinking about securing an internship. It's going to help you to stand out in the crowd for all the right reasons. It's going to give you some real-world experience, and it's going to show an employer, hey, I take initiative. I didn't need an internship, but I wanted an internship, and I did everything in my power to secure an internship. So that's really what it's saying about you. And then the keywords are going to help you to show up in a search. So this is just a management internship. It's a summer internship at Copycat Printing. And the bullet points, notice not large chunks of text, they're bulleted, assistant manager and improving organizational processes and decisions. So everything I have here in red could potentially be a keyword. Operations flow isn't in red, but it could be a keyword. Constituents, clients, project status, communicated. You could look at any of these things and say, oh, these are all keywords. And then I want you to stop and think when you're writing your internship description. What did you do? How did you secure it? What did you achieve? What are some special projects? Okay, how I've written it. Is there a different way I can write it that I could use a keyword? Is there a different way I could phrase it that would maybe be more articulate to my skill sets? Are there stronger verbs that I can use? Are there better language skill sets that I could implement? And ONET Online. You're going to hear me say that over and over. ONET Online is a great resource. You could put in printing intern and see what comes up as the job duties of a printing intern. Maybe that will give you ideas. It will also help you to see some keywords from the industry that might help you. And again, you have a career center here on campus. You can meet with us. You could just pop by real quick and say, hey, I wrote these bullets out. Could you take a look at them for me real quick? And if we're available, we would absolutely be willing to do that for you. So being that you're part of the professional development series, you would have that opportunity to do in a number of occasions, and we would make that available to you as well. So honors and awards, this is a section that says to an employer, look, someone else recognized I work hard and gave me an award for my hard work. Again, it's more of a character trait. It's also saying what you value, where you hold dedication, commitment, scholarships. It takes effort to apply for a scholarship typically. Honor societies, again, you've done well academically. We're going to honor you with an honor society, the dean's list, and a scholar athlete, lettering in an athletic organization. That all says hard work, commitment, dedication, and drive. And those are all things that I would certainly want to have working with me. So those are things employers value. When it comes to professional organizations, this is extremely important. This, again, could be American Marketing Association, the Society for the Advancement of Management. Professional organizations are ways for you to say, look, I'm not just an accounting major. I'm involved in accounting by being in the accounting club. I've taken on leadership. I've coordinated a special project with that. Or that you've done the International Business Seminar. I've gone abroad. I've been a part of the Professional Development Series. I went to a conference. And what did you do? What were you involved with? What leadership did you hold? Again, a great place to insert some keywords, and it shows that you're invested in your career. You could also combine professional organizations with campus and community involvement. There's nothing wrong with that if you're someone who maybe works a part-time job, and so you're not in 15 different organizations, but you are in one organization and you've been involved with leadership. That's okay. We're just showing you a variety of options here. You can put American Marketing Association, that you were the secretary and a trip planning committee chair. You're showing leadership, commitment, dedication. And the other activities are saying, well, where do your interests lie? There's been a lot of conversation of, oh, well, if it's not completely related, you shouldn't include it. I want you to think about individuals with whom you are friends. Are you friends with them because of their major, or are you friends with them because you have a common interest? I'm guessing it's because you have some things in common. Like your major may be what had you meet each other, but the common interest is what keeps you talking with one another. It's what keeps you interested. There is a human side to recruitment, and if an HR recruiter or a talent acquisition manager is looking at your document and they see that you volunteer with Special Olympics and maybe they volunteer with Special Olympics, that is a great conversation starter. Or that you coordinated a blood drive. Maybe they coordinate a blood drive at their place of employment. So it's a way to open up some conversations and have that person see, oh, I have a lot in common with this person. I would probably enjoy working with this individual. Or I would like to hear more about this trip planning committee chair. That sounds really fun. Where did they plan trips? And so you can get some of those chitter chatter questions at the beginning of your interview, which help to establish a common ground, which help you to feel more relaxed, which helps you to interview better. When it comes to part-time employment, you want to include fairly recent information. So you don't want to go back to maybe say your first job, but if your first job is still your only job, that is definitely okay to include. But I get asked a lot, well, how far back do I go? Usually 1 or 2 years, depending on what kind of other content you have to include in the document. So it's not a one-size-fits-all. If you're concerned about how much work experience you have and what to include, I would love to have an individual conversation with you about that, and specifically your document. So that's a totally open invitation for you to schedule some time to meet with me so that we can discuss that. But this is another fantastic place to insert keywords. This is where you can say, okay, well, I worked at an ice cream stand and it doesn't really have much to do with accounting. Or does it? And that's where we can get creative and think about how you might use accounting skills at an ice cream stand. Or maybe you work at a recreation park in the summer and you're a management major, but you oversee the summer staff, or perhaps you are part of a team that does special projects. We can get creative with the keywords here, and we can start tailoring descriptions to match your job targets. And again, language is a really important part here. We want to use strong verbs, and we want to be cognizant of what the reader wants to know. I want you to think for a moment about going to a restaurant and you're sitting at a table and a waitress comes over to you. Are you going to look at her like, who are you and what are you doing and why are you here, with that pen and paper and what do you want to know? No, you're going to give her your drink order, you're going to give her your food order, and she's going to go put it in for the cook, and then she's going to bring you the food and come back and ask if you need refills. You know what a waitress does, right? But what you probably don't know is that maybe she developed a training program for new employees. Perhaps she was in charge of inventory. So those are some of the behind the scene things that the server may do that you wouldn't have any knowledge about. That's what is going to capture their attention. Don't state the obvious. Instead, think about outside the box things or behind the scene things or special projects. It's going to make you stand out. It's a great way to use keywords, and it's going to be a wonderful opportunity for you to really make yourself stand out in a very sharp, polished way. There are optional sections of the resume that you could include: some research, publications, presentations, technical skills, traveling, languages, certifications, and licensures. You may think about research and think, well, I don't have any big research projects. If it's relevant to the field or to your industry, even if it's a class project that you had to do because it was an assignment, it's a good way to show off your skill set and include some keywords. If you did presentations at local or state or national conferences or regional conferences, include those. And the same with computer and technical skills. Be really cognizant of what they're looking for in a job posting or an opportunity that's listed, because if they have some very specific technical skills listed or software or programs, you want to make sure you include those on your resume. Even though you may look at it and say, seriously, I'm a college student in this generation and they really don't know that I would know how to use Microsoft Word. Well, if they're putting in a scanner into an electronic system, a human may never get to look at it and say, oh yeah, well obviously they would know how to use Microsoft Word. So think about that when it comes down to technical skills, and we can certainly help you with that. The same with travel. If it's for personal travel, if it's for maybe a mission trip, or maybe it's for a conference abroad or something along that line, it shows cultural diversity, cultural awareness, adaptability, flexibility, that you're used to traveling. We can gather all kinds of information about you based on travel. The same with languages. You want to be aware of what you're putting on that document, and if they are specifically asking for languages and a skill set with languages, you want to give them that information. So don't just put Spanish. That doesn't really tell me a whole lot. I could put Spanish on my resume because I watched a lot of Dora the Explorer, and I know words like abuela and rojo, and no, I'm not going to be of any help to you if you really speak Spanish. However, if you're conversational in Spanish, that helps me to know the level. If you have basic knowledge of reading and writing Spanish, that's a little clearer. Or if you're fluent or proficient. So I hope you catch my point there, that you don't want to oversell or undersell or just not sell. So be specific. And the same with certifications and licensures. Think outside the box with this one. It can be related to your major. Maybe it's first aid CPR. Maybe you have a special certification within the business field. Maybe you have a certification of life space crisis intervention, or maybe you have conflict management or conflict resolution certifications. Those are all really interesting things that can make you stand out. So in our last few moments here, I want to talk a little bit about green recruiting trends or digital recruiting. Career management systems are becoming more and more popular. In fact, Clarion University, we have Career Connections. It is a career management network that allows you to create a profile. It allows you to search for opportunities. It allows you to identify skills in which you are doing well, maybe areas that you don't like so well. It allows you to research companies and follow employers and really just build a network there. It also allows you to upload a resume and be able to apply to jobs through the system. And again, you would want to upload a PDF, and you don't want to upload that though until you've had it reviewed by our office. Put that little disclaimer in there. More and more employers are also turning to social media. LinkedIn and Twitter are two really big ones. I have one employer who tells me he spends 80% of his day on LinkedIn searching for talent to hire, to interview, to consider for candidacy. And that's a really large percentage. Again, we want to make sure you know how to use LinkedIn, so we've built it into part of this series, but if you haven't started exploring it yet, that's something that you would want to do. The same with Twitter. I know that sounds really strange. Some of you may be saying, oh my gosh, Twitter? I wouldn't expect an employer to be there, but they really are. They're developing hashtag campaigns. They are creating a very dynamic strategy to capture your attention in the job fair market when it comes to social media. So if you have not yet cleaned up your social media, get on that right away because you don't want any digital dirt around. And when it comes to digital recruitment, this is a term that's for online meet and greets, for job interviews, for job fairs, and this is essentially where they would meet with you via Skype or FaceTime, or perhaps they have software specifically set up for their event where they can meet with you digitally. It's becoming very very common. It's a very time-saving, cost-saving. It's just you have to know how to use the equipment and how to be comfortable with that, which is something we can help you with. And then hire twice campaigns are also becoming really popular. I'll use UPMC as an example. They want to hire you into their internship pool so they can bring you on for their full-time employment. Now, that's not to say that that's an automatic, oh, we hire you as an intern and you're guaranteed a job. They want to hire you to see if you're a good fit, to see how you work out with the company, to see what your work style is like, and if they like you, they'll can work with you to find a position somewhere within the company if you're a good fit. So it's becoming more and more popular. So a lot of people say, I don't want an internship, I don't need an internship. I'm here to tell you right now, this Hire Twice campaign, this strategy, I see it going to becoming more and more popular, especially as more and more employers see how successful they are becoming. They are willing to develop an internship program to have the opportunity to do a hire twice. So if you're not thinking about doing an internship, I would love for you to say right now, mark on your to-do list, look at taking on an internship. It's definitely something you should do. So that is a very basic overview of advanced resumes. It's something that would hopefully give you some food for thought. Maybe you wrote down some questions. You can put those in the discussion tab of the Desire to Learn site. You can email them to us as well. Submit a copy of your resume after you've looked at this and looked at some of our other resources. You want to put it in the D2L Dropbox so that we can provide you with feedback. It doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, it's not going to be perfect. My document is still not perfect. I constantly work on it. So what I want you to do is just get comfortable with looking at resources, looking at ONET Online, looking at job descriptions, and really start thinking about what those keywords might be and how you can implement them into your document. It's okay if we go back and forth several times on the document. That's what we're here for. We really want you to have a very thorough understanding of how this process works in order to help you to be the most successful. So take a look at some of our online resources and ask your questions in the discussion board or email them to us as well. All right, thanks for your time.